There are many disabilities that affect so many people all over the world. Not just themselves, but it also affects their families and friends. Now, this disability I will be talking about affects 1 in 100 people here in the UK. This disability is autism, and it's a hidden disability. My first interview is with Janet Wilson, an expert in autism. So, because like I said, you work with autistic people, just for people that actually don't know this at home, what is autism? Can you explain this to us?
Well, the textbook definition is that autism is a pervasive developmental disorder, which means that it sort of it affects all areas of your development, of a child's development. But there are 3 areas in particular that suffer from what they call, under the medical model, impairment, and that's communication, social interaction, and flexibility of thought or social imagination. But it's much bigger than that. There are lots of sensory issues, and I haven't met one person who's on the spectrum who hasn't got issues with anxiety. And I find that can be the biggest barrier. You know, people can't actually get into college because they've got so many fears about the unknown and the unexpected and people. So, in a nutshell, that's it. But it's very personal. You know, so one person can be with the diagnosis of autism can be very, very different from the next person.
Yeah. So, like I said, you've mentioned that autism affects different people differently. Yes. How would each one affect that person?
Right. Well, typically with communication, obviously there's a huge spectrum, and the impairment of communication can mean that somebody is non-verbal; they don't actually speak. But in general terms, particularly with people who are higher functioning in autism, I don't like that word, but that's what's the medical term. It's a social communication and non-verbal communication that's affected. So people will find it difficult to make conversation, to interact socially with other people, and to read those non-verbal signals. So for people who are on the higher end of the spectrum, dating, where there are no written rules and where you're relying on subtle sort of nuances of tone and body language, is incredibly hard. And same as ambiguity in words. People tend to have a very literal interpretation, people on the spectrum, of a word, and where in English we've got so many different meanings for many different words, so it can be quite a minefield. With social interaction, the recognition of who is a friend and who is not a friend and who can be trusted is often impaired, and that leaves people very, very vulnerable for exploitation. And often there can be misunderstandings where someone might think somebody's been nasty to them and in actual fact they haven't. So there are those sort of misunderstandings. And with imagination, it's to do with change, it's to do with doing things a different way. And so in further education, where we like to spring changes on people, like suddenly changing the room and suddenly changing the lecturer, or the lecturer not appearing or something like that, it can be terrible for people who are on the autistic spectrum, because that's very difficult to cope with.
So with your job, how do you personally help autistic people?
Well, I've developed a curriculum. It's only in its infancy, where we're actually trying to tackle the hidden curriculum. So that's the thing, we're trying to tackle the life skills and get into relationships that are not taught formally in college, and that often prove to be huge barriers to the quality of young people's experience in college. The curriculum is also going to include people who are more profoundly on the spectrum, say from special schools and from who need communication sort of interventions and things. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, and it's something that's supported by the college. So I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to do it. But it's a challenge as well as a sort of an exciting thing.
So with over the years of your job, do you personally believe you have helped improve autistic people's lives?
Some I have, and I feel sort of grateful for that. That's a huge point of satisfaction. I think that maybe I've helped put something in place that has helped somebody. Others, I feel, particularly early on, I maybe didn't do as much as I could because I wasn't aware of what could be done. So it is a huge learning experience. I think as a society, on a personal front, both my boys are not in school at the moment, and I think education often fails to address the total needs of people on the spectrum, and sometimes to the extent where they need something alternative. I think that's where hopefully the Children and Families Act can help to put a more robust packaging for people who are on the autistic spectrum.
Do you have any advice to anyone who thinks they might have got autism or know someone who think they've got autism?
I would say if you're comfortable with it, seek a diagnosis. It does help. It helps people to understand, particularly if you've managed to get through life so far and you're a bit older and you think you're probably on the spectrum, because people can misinterpret behaviour for being rude or not understanding or being awkward, and having that diagnosis gives people a framework to understand. But I can understand that some people don't like the label, and maybe but there are online tests. There's the Asperger's AQ test, which obviously with people who have other types of autism, it can be helpful as well, but it sort of just indicates whether or not you may possibly be more likely to be autistic than not. And then go to your GP. GPs should have had training now in helping to refer people onwards to more specialised assessment centres.
My second interview is with members of the general public.
What do you mean? Explaining what we're...
Like what autism is in general.
I wouldn't know how to explain it. It's a big thing, isn't it? I wouldn't know how to...
So, do you know anyone who's got autism?
Yeah, my son.
How old's your son?
13.
So, what level of autism has he got?
He's high-end.
So, how's autism affected him?
Liam has got no speech. He's got an eye pain threshold. He's a risk to himself and others because he's can be quite violent.
And he can't feel pain.
Yeah, but then he can be loving as well. So it's.
So both ends.
Yeah.
Have you ever received any support for your son?
Yeah and no.
Yeah. Do you think there's enough support out there to help people?
No.
No. Do you think that's something that needs to be fixed?
Yeah, I think a lot more people need to be made aware of autism, and also there should be clubs where autistic children can go.
Do you think then there needs to be more education and awareness raised about this as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, do you know what autism is?
Yes.
Would you be able to explain it just so people know what it is?
It's I'm not sure if this is the right way to put it, but it's a mental disability, isn't it?
Yes. So, do you know anyone who's got autism?
Yeah, my cousin has a daughter who has autism.
Right. So, is this something that you think is quite common in people in the UK?
There's been plenty of people who I'm a tattooist and I've tattooed people who have kids who've got autism. So I've done autism tattoos, like the jigsaw puzzles with rainbow stuff in them. So.
Yeah. Do you think that autism affects one gender?
No, not all. No.
Do you think then it affects one age?
No.
So you believe that autism affects everyone? It doesn't go for anything specific? No,
anyone can have autism, yeah.
Do you think that they're getting any support, autistic people, or do you think there's enough?
There could be room for improvement, yeah, but there's a lot of people that do charities.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that do charities for autism. They've got a special day already, haven't they, that people donate on Facebook, etc.
So do you think that there should be more education or more awareness being raised about autism?
Yeah, definitely. Not enough people know about it, yeah.
Do you know anyone who's been affected by autism?
Not personally, no, but I know my wife used to work with autistic children at the Newman School.
Oh yeah.
And she told me quite a bit about it. Now, it's a difficult complaint. It's hard to judge. They all seem to be a little bit different, and they all seem to, the kids that suffer from it, all seem to have some streak of highly intelligent genes about them. Possibly.
Do you think autism needs to be raise more awareness and educate people about it?
I certainly do. There should be a lot more research into it, and there should be a lot more public awareness into it, because it could strike anybody down at any particular moment.
Yeah.
Any family, any people expecting a child, will strike them all down. So the more we research it, the more we can control it and hopefully cure it. Yeah.
Do you think this is something that the government should take more?
I certainly do, yeah. I think when we're spending billions of pounds on nuclear weapons, should be spending more on things like autism.
Yeah. My third interview is with Zoe Ellis, an autistic person. So what have you been diagnosed with?
I've got Asperger's syndrome.
So what is Asperger's syndrome? Because there's a lot of people who doesn't really know much about this disability.
Asperger's syndrome is basically a social disability. So I have trouble communicating with people that I don't know, but I have got a normal IQ, just like everyone else.
Yeah. So it's very similar then to autism since it affects communications.
Yeah, it is. It's the difference between them is just that people with Asperger's tend to have an higher IQ.
So you're technically smarter than me then. So how old were you when you were diagnosed?
When I was diagnosed, I was 20 years old. I just had my birthday.
So literally just 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Why do you think then you were only diagnosed 6 years ago?
Basically it's because Mum didn't know anything about it. My little brother got diagnosed with autism, and then from various groups my mum realised that I had similar symptoms as other people. So
like due to family?
Yeah.
Then, yeah. So what do you think then, how was your life then like before you were diagnosed with your disability?
Well, before I was diagnosed I really wouldn't leave the house. I wouldn't communicate with other people that I didn't know. I basically just sat down and did nothing. Didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to go to uni.
So see now that since your life's been diagnosed, is it improved a lot more for you now, knowing that you've got a condition?
Yeah, I think because it gives you a reason why you've behaved the way you have, and you know you are normal, and the reason that you don't want to do something is not because of another thing, it's just the fact that you can't at that moment in time.
So yeah, like I said, so you class yourself then as normal, as what public would say?
Well, normal with special powers.
Yeah, we've all got special powers, yeah. So like I said, now you've mentioned you're going to university, so like what are you studying at university?
I'm studying psychology.
So I take it then this is something that you've got a personal interest in, like a hobby or something you want to go forward with in the future?
Yeah, our department, they've got an autism research lab, so they do a lot of studies on autism.
So it's helping you to learn more about your disability as well?
Yeah, and there's like progression into other things as well.
So because you're studying psychology, is this something you personally want to go into, like in the future as a career?
Yeah, I think I'd like to research into autism and train people about it.
That sounds quite good, because then you're helping to pass that information on and to help teach other people who don't know about this disability.
Yeah, it's really interesting, some of the stuff what they do, like the EEG monitors on your head.
That sounds quite good. So have you got any personal advice you'd give out to anyone who thinks that autistic or they've got it, just about anything in life?
I think go for it, because without knowing that you've got something you can't improve yourself. If you know exactly what you've got, then you can always improve.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
My final interview is with Amanda Jones, a parent of autistic children.
How many children do you have?
4.
How old are each?
23, 21, 11 and 5.
So have they all been diagnosed?
Yes, they have, yeah.
What have they all got?
Autism, dyspraxia and one has Tourette's.
Alright. So because obviously you've been raising up for autistic children, obviously throughout their lives. What's it been like raising them?
Nice. It has its moments, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Have you found it at any point difficult to raise autistic children?
Yeah, there are some aspects that are more difficult.
What do you think those aspects are?
Behaviour, and there being no support to help combat that bad behaviour.
Have you found it rewarding at any point?
Yeah, raising children is always rewarding.
Yeah. So what do you do as a living?
I'm a stay-at-home mum and I home educate the youngest too.
Why do you home educate them?
Because school wasn't suitable for them.
I see. Have you actually ever received any support from any charities or family members or anything to help the children?
No, there's not a lot of support out there.
Okay. Have you got any advice then that you'd give out to parents of autistic people?
don't listen to all the scare stories. They may always sort of go beyond what you're expecting them to achieve, and just sort of focus on that child and what they can do, not what they can't do, and what they might not be able to do in the future.
Hi everyone, I'm Leanne Jones, and I bet you've all been wondering what I'm here doing, talking to everyone in this documentary. Well, I'll be able to answer that question for you. You see, I'm not the typical 21-year-old like everybody else. I'm still at university in a second year when I should have at least graduated by now. And I'm not the same as everybody else, you see. I'm same as Zoe Ellis, I've got superpowers, yet mine are slightly different to hers. I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, and this is what I've classed as my first memory. I remember having to wear a metal cap on my head with a box on my side measuring my brainwaves. So my first memory was me actually being tested for autism. Now, from that first memory, my life's been quite hard, not just for me, but just for my parents and my family that's been raising me. But it's been quite hard for my friends as well who haven't known much about that disability. So with school, well, primary, it was quite hard because I had very little friends, what I class as true friends, and I had very little to non-social or communication skills. And with comp as well, that progressed. I still end up only having a very few friends, and my skills did improve slightly, but my confidence did get knocked back because I did get bullied a lot for my intelligence, but also just because I wasn't like everybody else. But all that changed when I hit college, because I've ended up doing a course that I absolutely love. I've made some really great friends that I can get on with, but also I managed to meet the true love of my life, who I'm now currently engaged to. But also now I'm at my second year of university, going on to my final year, and I'm still continuing doing the course I love and making some really great friends. So like I said, that's me, that's my life, that's my disability. So I hope this documentary has helped in answering that question, what is autism? But to have also shown that autism needs awareness raising, but also that we all of us with autism have got it, but we're all different from each other. We aren't all the same. We're all unique, and like Zoe said, we've all got superpowers, and some of us have just got it more than others. Autism isn't something you should be ashamed of. It is a tough subject, I know, but we should be proud of what we've got. We should be proud to stand in front of people saying, here we are, here's who I am. So I think with autism as a hidden disability, yes, it is classed as hidden compared to other disabilities, but that does not mean we're all hidden as a person.